Hey everybody, I'm Jack Hammer. Today I wanted to come in here and talk to you a little bit about some of the things that stood out from the 49ers victory on Sunday. You know, the 49ers were able to start their season with a win for only the second time in 5 years under Kyle Shanahan. But in many ways, this victory felt like a defeat due to the loss of Jason Verrett for the season with that torn ACL on his right knee. And I'm not sure if you heard earlier today, but Raheem Mostert was also lost for the season. He announced earlier that he has chosen to have season-ending surgery, so he'll be gone for the year as well. In his place, the 49ers signed Kerryon Johnson to the practice squad. Crazy enough, but Johnson was actually with the Eagles during the preseason and was cut due to injury. That injury was to his knee. Makes a lot of sense that the 49ers would want to pick him up, given the fact that they just lost two players to knee injuries. But in addition to the injuries, the Lions were able to mount a big comeback. It left a lot of doubt on the defense heading into this week against Philadelphia. So let's take a look at those main takeaways that I have from the game. Number one, the 49ers defense nearly giving it away. There was a lot that went into that at the end, and we shouldn't forget that the 49ers defense held Detroit to only 17 points over the first 55 minutes of the game. It's not unusual for a defense to back off late, especially when they have a 24-point lead. And with the game seemingly in hand, you saw the 49ers begin to play a little bit more of a soft zone coverage. That's designed to keep the ball in bounds, keep the clock running. And even though Detroit would be able to drive down the field and score, it took them nearly 4 minutes off of the game clock. By the time they got in the end zone, it was past the 2-minute warning. It was, I think, 1 minute and 53 seconds left to go. And that's where things went sideways for San Francisco. On that, you had the onside kick, and you had George Kittle misplay it. The hop bounces off of his face mask, and it's recovered by Detroit. Once again, there's less than 2 minutes to go. If you secure that kick right there, likely ends the game, and any worry about a Lions comeback and really that last touchdown and drive down into the 49ers territory likely doesn't even happen. Instead, you have the 49ers defense right back on the field. They just lost Verrett on the previous possession, so nearly all the starters were actually taken out of the game on this drive, and Detroit was able to go right down the field again, exploiting the soft zone coverage. They had one nice deep ball over the top of Ambry Thomas down the right sideline, and they were able to get into the end zone there and score and get the 2-point conversion again and pull the lead within 8 points. But again, the offense is on the field now, and on the third play of the possession, Jimmy Garoppolo hits Deebo Samuel. Looks like it's going to be a first down. The game's going to be iced. Instead, Samuel gets hit right before he gets the first down, and it's a turnover. So now you have the defense on the field again right away, and the 49ers play their that soft zone. They have all the starters back out there now. They're still kind of in that soft zone cover. They're basically playing single high, a little bit of two high, just trying to keep the ball in front of them. And Detroit's able to get down to the 25-yard line. I think there's about 30 seconds left to go. But then once they get down there, you see D'Amico Ryans dial up pressure, really kind of just say, okay, well, we've had enough. Now we're down here. We're going to have to make a stop and finish this off. And you get 3 incompletions by Goff. He had the one scramble, I think, where he gains the yard on the run out to the right side. But you have a really nice third down play that gets where the ball gets knocked out of T.J. Hawkinson's hand. And then you have a really nice job being done by the 49ers defensive line, where Samson had come running a twist in the middle and forcing the Detroit quarterback, Jared Goff, to throw the ball away. Basically, there was nobody even in the vicinity of where the ball was thrown on fourth down to end the game. So a really nice finish to that. I don't think that we should lose sight, though, of how good this defense played throughout the first 55 minutes of the game. Should there be cause for concern moving forward? Yes and no. The defense as a whole looked really good. Losing Verrett's definitely going to be a blow. The secondary is going to be okay when you have Deommodore Lenoir on one side. I think the rookie played really well. I think he's going to continue to play well. He's played well throughout preseason and everything up to this point. But the 49ers really need Emmanuel Mosley to come back, and they need him to be healthy. If they can have him healthy, I think the secondary is going to be in decent shape. They have a couple of guys that they signed, veterans, Josh Norman last week and Dre Kirkpatrick earlier this week. Kirkpatrick's nothing to be too excited about. Neither one of those guys really should get you excited, but at least they're guys that aren't Brian Allen and should be able to keep the 49ers defense in the game to a certain extent. But this really comes back to the philosophy of the 49ers current front office in San Francisco, and that's been to build their defense from the front back. And that defensive line is going to really be put to the test over the final 17 weeks of the season because they're going to have to step up and play big time for the 49ers to have a shot here down the road. Let's jump on to the second one. Brandon Aiyuk in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse. After he had a standout rookie season, there were high expectations for Aiyuk here in year two. Against Detroit, though, Aiyuk wouldn't touch the field until the 49ers' third offensive possession. True, the first only lasted one play due to the fumble snap, but he wasn't on the field even at all during that first. I guess you really consider the first possession of the game. It wasn't until the second or third, depending on how you want to look at that. But free agent acquisition Trent Sherfield was actually the first receiver to be on the field, paired up with Deebo Samuel. And although Sherfield would play one more snap than Aiyuk, he would be targeted 3 times, make 2 receptions for 23 yards and a touchdown. So not a lot of balls getting thrown to Sherfield either. Aiyuk, on his side, he wouldn't even get a target though. So, after a Monday, Shanahan was asked if there was anything other than the injury that he had already noted following the game that led to Aiyuk's playing time to be less than expected. He said, Shanahan's response was no. I just think he's got a better person behind him this year in training camp. We wanted to split time like that. I thought Aiyuk would get a few more punt returns. I thought he'd get a few more targets. But when guys are rotating as much as we were today, 50-50, I don't really ask much who's in. I'm good with either one of them getting the ball. Whoever's in there at the time, it doesn't matter to me. And when you go back, and I went back and rewatched the game, Shanahan's explanation makes sense. Aiyuk and Sherfield ran roughly the same number of routes, and for the most part, they could be found to be clearing out the underneath routes for Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. The exceptions were Sherfield's little route that he ran with Trey Lance for a touchdown, and then a little bit later in the game when they ran their deep curl route that they like to run, where they run about 20-yard curls on both sides, and Sherfield got hit there by Garoppolo for a nice game. But other than that, for the most part, those guys were, both Sherfield and Aiyuk were busy run blocking and clearing out the underneath stuff for the other guys. Another thing that's to note with Aiyuk, the bulk of his production actually came when you had George Kittle and Deebo Samuel out and Nick Mullins was throwing the ball. With Kittle and Samuel healthy, there's just not going to be as many targets this season. Those guys are your 2 top playmakers. And, Jimmy Garoppolo is not well known for throwing the deep ball, which is, a lot of what you're going to see with Aiyuk as well. So, we might not see him have quite the same production as he had last year. Is he in the doghouse? I say a little bit. There's probably a little bit something to that, but at the same time, I think it's just that they have better depth throughout the lineup this year than they did last. Let's go to the next one, and this is Aziz Al-Shaair. The linebacker had a really good game. The Sam linebacker in the 49ers base defense usually he's more of an afterthought. They usually don't play a whole lot, but the Lions really like to run the ball, and between that and the groin injury to Dre Greenlaw, Al-Shaair was on the field quite a bit. He played 72 of the 49ers' 90 defensive snaps on Sunday. He'd be credited with 7 tackles, which would tie him for second on the team with safety Jaquiski Tartt. And Al-Shaair would make a number of big plays throughout the game. I mean, if you looked at it early on, that was Detroit's second possession of the game. He dropped Lions running back DeAndre Swift for a loss of 8. That would then force it to 3rd and 18. They'd stop him on 3rd and 18, forcing a long field goal attempt, and that field goal attempt would be no good. And then later throughout the game, he made a number of nice tackles, and I think it was it was on the last possession, I believe. He did a nice job of coming up, knocking the ball away from one of the running backs on a pass over the middle, and then once Detroit got down into the 25 of the 49ers, Al-Shaair would knock the ball in the hands of Detroit tight end T.J. Hawkinson, forcing the Lions into that 4th and 9 situation that they wouldn't be able to convert. So he had a really nice game. He's definitely somebody that stepped up. There was a point early in this offseason training camp where it looked like he might be getting replaced when the 49ers signed the linebacker that had been up with Seattle. But they ended up releasing him due to injury, and Al-Shaair really has stepped up his game. He looked really good against the Lions. The last one, number 4, Nick Bosa and D Ford, those two are back. It's their first time together since the opening game of 2020. And Bosa and Ford, each would record a sack, but their impact on the game was felt in other areas as well. For Bosa in particular, go back and watch the first possession for Detroit. You get down into that 4th and 1 situation, and Bosa does a really nice job of knifing, slanting inside. That action by Bosa forces Jamal Williams to have to try and cut. And when he tries to cut to the outside, he slips and gets stopped short of the first down. But it's really Bosa's penetration on that play that makes the stop, not the guy who makes the tackle. It was just a good job of him to stop, force Williams to stop his feet and have to make a cut. He couldn't do it. And then as far as D Ford, you had late in the first half, the Lions were facing 3rd and 8, decided to go for it, and Jared Goff's over the middle gets intercepted and returned for a touchdown by linebacker Dre Greenlaw. But that play was really made by D Ford's ability to drive the Lions' right tackle back into Goff. That was what played a pivotal role in forcing that turnover. He was able to get back there, put pressure on him, and Jared Goff is just not very good when it comes to having pressure around him. And so that play by D Ford really set that up. So having Ford and Bosa around is huge, having those two back. With the questions in the secondary due to the loss of Verrett for the season. I mentioned this earlier, but the 49ers defense really needs Bosa and Ford to play like they did on Sunday for the rest of the season to really take the pressure off of that secondary, make some plays, not allow the opposing quarterbacks to sit back there. And I think if they can do that, it'll go a long way towards the 49ers having the type of season that 49er fans are hoping that they're going to have. So just wanted to drop that out, make sure I got that to you guys. Wanted to, like I said, went back and reviewed the film, wanted to just kind of touch on some of those key topics that have been going around for week 1. And then now we got to start turning our focus to Philadelphia. So that'll be the primary focus for the rest of the coverage this week. Wanted to say thank you to everybody that jumped on really quick. It was last minute, but thank you for coming on. If you enjoyed what you saw, please hit the like button. Please go ahead and comment on this as well. We'll be back later on today. I'll be on with Grant Cohn on his channel at 4 o'clock. We had a little bit of a change there, and then I will be doing Niner Chatter here on my channel tonight, starting at 5:30. So from about 5:30 till 6:30, 7 o'clock ish, we will be doing some phone calls with the 49ers faithful. So if you're watching this live, come back and join me later on today. And otherwise, have a great rest of your afternoon, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you much.